Hey everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I'm David Rodriguez, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Kinhank 5-in-1 12 terabyte hard drive. Now, I did do a review of their previous 12 terabyte hard drive that was all Hyperspin Attraction. This one's a 5-in-1 because it has Launchbox, it has Playnite, Retrobat, it has some Hyperspin Attraction, and Tekno Parrot. Really, that's also just like the Hyperspin Attraction front end, but just different stuff in it. So it also has Kodi, which is not something that they advertise on there. I'm going to show you what this is real quick because somebody didn't believe that there was nothing in here when I talked about it. And it's all, yeah, it's all just like you can put files in and whatever, but this is not, I don't think anyone's buying it for this. So we're going to get out of this, but I wanted to show you that there is in fact nothing in this Kodi section. Now that I have that out of the way, this is advertised as sort of a plug-and-play drive, and that's not entirely the case. You do have to install it onto Windows. And because this is a hard drive, it's not a system in itself, you do need a Windows computer to run this. And depending on how powerful your computer is, you're going to have better or worse performance in some systems, just kind of depending. But you'll have to install several different drivers. There's like a DirectX and a few other things. And for the most part, I had all the stuff it wanted me to install anyway. So you might have that same issue as well, where it's just not something you actually need to do. But yeah, you'll want to do that at first. And after that, you can kind of get in here. Now, that being said, there are some things that are not well set up. So for instance, the Wii U and the Switch, neither one of those systems recognize my controller. This was a problem in the previous one as well, at least with the Switch. So I had to go into their different emulators, which I think was Yuzu and Cemu, if I'm not mistaken, and go in and configure the controller. And the Cemu one for the Wii U is not really obvious how to do it. It's a little trickier, but nonetheless, that's what you have to do to get that working. Now, you may have already seen I did an unboxing video where I went into some of the collections and kind of showed you what there was. I couldn't show you Retrobat before because I couldn't get OBS to see it. I think I got it this time, so I'll let you know if I have luck as we get into this. But let's start off with some kind of simple stuff here. I'm going to go into Launchbox. So as you might expect, it handles the more basic systems just fine. You know, your 16-bit, your handhelds, that sort of thing. No issues there whatsoever, as you would imagine. It'd be kind of weird if those did have issues, but I'll show you a quick collage of some of those just so you have an idea of how it looks. All right, so the 3DS, you do have to configure the controls as well, unfortunately. But it works pretty well. It does start out windowed, so you have to use your mouse to get out of that. It's a little bit weird, but yeah, I mean, it works as you might expect with a, you know, a two-screened device. Obviously, the picture's a little small, but seems to work all right so far. I'm sure there's going to be some ROMs in all these collections that maybe don't work, and some of those I'll talk about a little later perhaps. But yeah, as you can see, it does a pretty good job of emulating the 3DS. All right, so PlayStation 1, I might consider that kind of a basic one at this point, but yeah, it runs perfectly well. I haven't gone in and messed with any settings as far as, you know, upscaling the graphics. I assume there's probably a way to do that in there, but I just have not done it yet. So anyway, but it works pretty well, other than my ability to win at this game, which I've never played before, so that's my defense. All right, so here we have the Sega Saturn running Panzer Dragoon 2. This system can be kind of hard to emulate, but you know, again, if you've got a decent PC, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. It's got a good selection of games on here as well, so can't complain about that. Again, I haven't messed with the upscaling or anything like that. I assume there is probably a way, but I don't necessarily mind playing it as it was originally released, but that's up to you. I'm liking it just fine, though. Works good. All right, so I'm playing Power Step 2 on the Dreamcast. Again, another system where I really have had no issue, so can't complain about it at all. And I'm a big fan of the system, always have been. I think the Sega's just got a lot of games, or systems rather, that were very underrated, and it's a damn shame. But this is one of them, and yeah, it runs really, really nicely. All right, Nintendo 64, as you might imagine, handles beautifully. By the way, I am deliberately trying not to show any games that are published directly by Nintendo, because I don't know if you heard what happened with the Retro Game Core channel, which is a great channel, by the way. They got in trouble with Nintendo for showing about 3 seconds of a Switch game. So I don't want that. I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to show Nintendo branded stuff if I can avoid it. But either way, it'll work just as well as any of this other stuff will. But yeah, Nintendo 64, perfectly good on this device. So GameCube runs great on the system. It's super smooth, no real issue. I'm not familiar with this game at all. I have no idea where I'm going, but regardless, I mean, it seems to be running really beautifully. So no issues here, and that's been my experience so far with everything I've tried on GameCube. Hopefully that is the case across the board, but yeah, looking good. All right, so we're doing PS3 here. This is Killzone, and it's working pretty well. Now, I have noticed that occasionally it'll start the game in a different window, but it won't pop that window up to the front, so sometimes you have to Alt-Tab to find the right one. And also some games will be compiling shaders for a while, so you have to play the game for a bit to get up to a normal speed occasionally. So that's something to be aware of, but overall, it works pretty well. Not tons of slowdown for the most part. You're going to find probably the occasional game that may have an issue, but I think that's more because of emulator than system. My personal system should be able to run all these games just fine. All right, so one of the ways that this particular hard drive excels over the previous one is that the Xbox emulation works a lot better. If you remember in the first one, I had trouble getting it to play right. It'd be in Windows or things like that. And so far, I haven't seen that issue with any of the games here. So I'm very happy with that, because there's a lot of great Xbox games that I was really hoping to play that I couldn't. I know Xbox is kind of a tricky one to emulate, so I imagine there are going to be ROMs out there that may or may not work with this particular emulator, but at least I can get things running fairly smoothly, at least so far. So I can't complain about that. That's been really good, and like I said, definitely improvement over the previous 12 terabyte hard drive they put out. All right, so as happy as I am with the Xbox emulation, the Xbox 360 is where I start to run into some problems. Let me kind of show you why. All right, so anytime in one of these games you have to enter something in, like type it in, instead of coming with the usual keyboard you might be used to seeing in these games, it comes up with this little screen. And sometimes there's not even a cursor there. It looks like this time I'm lucky, and there is. But let me see if I have the problem here that I had before. So then I tried to go another thing where I can enter something in, and you can see that it popped up for a second, and then it's just not there anymore. So there's not really a way to enter it in when you have these multiple fields. Now, if there's just one, I haven't had too much of an issue. I can usually get in, again, assuming that it gives me a cursor, but otherwise, not so much. In this one, I probably should have just taken all the stuff it just gave me and just hit done, and that would have been it. But it's something to know that if you have a game that requires a lot of inputs, it's just not necessarily going to work the way you think. All right, it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to the 360, though. Here we've got Halo 3 running. Now, you will notice occasionally it'll kind of stutter a little bit as, I guess, new things kind of happen on the screen. But overall, it runs pretty well. And again, because this is not a game where I had to enter anything in, oh gosh, it didn't really cause any issues with me getting into the game, which is nice. But yeah, something to know about. You're going to have some issues with certain games not really wanting to play because it's hard to get past those screens where you enter things in sometimes. All right, so here we're playing DuckTales Remastered on the Wii U, and runs pretty dang good. Like I said, this is a system that you're going to have to go in and configure your controller. It's not going to be ready when you get into it, and it's not the most It's not the most easy to figure out thing. I had to look up a video on how to do it just because it's just not very clear. But that being said, once you do it, it's fine. You do want to be careful though, because there are different ways to tell it that you're using a controller. So if you use the Wii U like system controller, because you know it was sort of like the Switch in a way where you could use it as a handheld. The problem is that sometimes the games will ask you for a touch screen input, which you won't have. So that is something to be aware of. You probably want to try to configure it for one of the different controllers, just so that it doesn't give you that issue. All right, so here we have Nier Automata on the Nintendo Switch. So controls really well. Again, this is a system you're going to have to go in and manually set up your controller yourself, but it runs really well. You know, it's running Yuzu. There's probably going to be some games that it can't quite do, but you know, this is a bit of a graphical powerhouse of a game. So if it doesn't run it, it's probably got more to do with just the compatibility of the emulator rather than you know, it being too complicated for the system. Again, depending on what kind of system that you're attaching the hard drive to. Okay, so now I'm going to try to get into Retrobat, and hopefully I can show it to you this time. I may have worked out what the problem was before, but I'm not certain. If so, I will show you some PS Vita games in there. All right, so here we got Wipeout 2048 on the PS Vita. Runs a little skippy. I think that's going to go away as you play it more and it loads in more of its shaders and whatnot. I was trying to show you Ridge Racer. That one I could not get to the game, so I don't know if that's a ROM issue or an emulator issue or what it might be. But it is cool to have this collection on here because I'm very unfamiliar with these with the games on the system. So I know the Wipeout series, but not this particular game. And it seems to run okay, other than my inability to play well, but that's a whole other issue. But yeah, if you want to try some PS Vita games, if you haven't before, if you just want to play them on a bigger screen, this is definitely a great way to do that. All right, so now we're in Playnite. We have kind of like a lot of the higher end PC games, some of the indie ones as well. Now, I'm going to use this particular system, I guess, to show you a problem I have with this particular hard drive in general. Now, the ones I've tried on here all run fine. That's not an issue. Let me get into Cyberpunk real quick. All right, so here we are. We're getting into Cyberpunk, and you know, this is a good game once I got all the kinks worked out at the beginning. There was a lot of issues when it first released, and let me show you what's wrong here. Now, you might notice in the bottom right of the screen, you have some print that is not in English, and now they're speaking something that is not English either. I don't know if it's Japanese or Chinese. I'm not sure. I looked online to see if maybe I could figure out the path to get to the options to change the language, and English was not an option there. Now, if this is the only game that did this, not that big a deal. But I tried playing Doom 3 on the Xbox, and it was in French. I tried playing Aladdin on the Genesis, and it was in Spanish. And while I appreciate that, you know, there's maybe something for everybody, no matter what language you speak, you know, if they're going to sell it to a certain market, they should probably make sure the games are in that language, because a game, especially like Cyberpunk, you're not going to be able to play without understanding what's being said or reading anything. It just doesn't work. And yeah, that's, you know, I've just noticed it sporadically. There's probably a lot more than I've noticed that have that issue. But there it is. It's kind of a problem. You know, a lot of other games are fine. It's not like they're all in a different language, but yeah, this one is. So if you wanted to play Cyberpunk and you try to get into it, I hope you know whatever language this is, because otherwise it's just not going to work for you. All right, so here I'm on PS2 playing, I believe it's the second Maximo game, and the reason I'm playing it on Retrobat, and the reason why I'm pointing that out is because I just went to try to do it on Launchbox, and literally none of the games would boot up anymore. They did last night, but not now. I can get to sometimes the opening like video and stuff, but when I actually try to play the game, it cancels me right out. I went into Retrobat, and the button bindings were all screwy. They still kind of are. I can play the game, but you know, now what would be the square button, I believe, is pausing the game, and yeah, it's kind of screwy. I mean, the games run okay, but something here has happened, and the controls are not being as they should. I haven't run an antivirus on this or anything, so I don't think it would have deleted anything that might have been there or changed anything. So I'm not sure what's going on. But that's going to be, it's going to illustrate another problem that I have with this particular hard drive. And that is that occasionally my controller will just not work properly anywhere. Like it'll do things, but it'll skip. So if you tap down once, it'll actually go down two. And same thing with the buttons. It'll basically double them up. So you can't always pick what you want to pick. And, you know, I tried updating my, my Xbox controller, and that wasn't enough to fix it. Or, you know, sometimes it'll work if I completely get out of this and then go back in. It's really odd and random, and I'm not sure what the issue is. But while I'm on that particular topic, I might as well talk about some other problems I have with this particular hard drive. Okay, let's start by talking about the collections here. So there's a couple weird things, like if I go to Power Drum here, for instance, a little video on the arcade unit says this game is not playable. However, it actually is. I just tried it. And oddly, I'm in Launchbox, and I know before I said that that was not launching games. I completely shut down the hard drive and then got back in, and now it's playing games. Still has some odd things with the buttons, though. I don't know why. But let's talk about the actual, like the specifics of the collections here. And PS2 is actually a great example, and it's the one that kind of irks me the most. Now, I don't expect any of these collections to have every game I would like and none of the games I don't. That would be unreasonable. But one thing I think is very odd is that the PS2 collection has, as you might expect, all the EA Sports games, pretty much every version every year as far as I know. What it doesn't have are any of the RPGs in the system. And the PS2 is an RPG powerhouse. Now, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. I do think it's weird that they're not on here, though, because, you know, if you wanted to actually physically go buy a PlayStation 2, the old sports games are super cheap. Like, you could get those for probably under $10 each, whereas the RPGs usually go for a lot of money. So as far as like bang for your buck, it's not really good. You know, I don't know why I need every version of Madden, but not a single Final Fantasy. That's really weird. You know, people who love Madden maybe love that, but I don't know. I don't know if too many people are really going to play every single different year of Madden, maybe, but I think it's very strange. And what's odd about that is that this hard drive isn't even completely filled up. There's something like 338 gigs, I think, of free space where they could have like thrown some of those in there, and then it would have seemed more complete. I don't expect every single RPG game in here, but, you know, toss us something, because it's crazy to me that, you know, I looked through here and I can't find one other than things that maybe are like arguable, like the Baldur's Gate kind of action RPGs. That's about as close as you get. And really nothing else. So that's really kind of frustrating. All right, if we go over to Hyperspin Attraction and go to Future Pinball, these will actually boot up, unlike they did in the first collection that they put out in the previous 12 terabyte hard drive. However, the controls do nothing. So not very useful. I tried to go in and figure out if I could configure it. I couldn't figure out anything. So that's frustrating. You're also going to notice, especially in the arcade games, that there are multiple versions of the same game. So you have Maximum Force 3 times, Line of Fire 3 times, Lethal Forces 2 3 times, Original Lethal Forces, what is that, 6 7 times? And I know the arcades came out with like slightly different versions of a lot of these games that, you know, they weren't even like listed on the arcade cabinet itself, but do we really need that? You know, probably not. I know these games aren't necessarily gigantic, but kind of a waste of space. Some of them might be the same game in different languages, but still, it's really strange. And speaking of different languages, that thing where some of the games are not in English, that's a big negative on this as well. All right, so you might have noticed that when I was going through and showing you little clips of something from each system, I didn't show you any Nintendo DS stuff, and here's why. So we have our loading screen, and it just kicks us back to the menu. Every game I tried does this. I haven't tried every single game in here, but I have a feeling with the number I've tried that that is going to be the case with all of these, which is a real shame. I've run DS games through other collections without any issue. And so something is wrong here. Something with the emulator, maybe. I'm not sure exactly, but these are not working. And it seems really odd to me that they would have collections on here that really don't function at all. It's strange when there's like controller issues, but I understand maybe that's an issue, or people have different controllers, that can make sense. But when it has something like this that just does not work, that's a problem. I also had someone reach out to me that they were having trouble with the Xbox games where sometimes all the controls were reversed. I haven't noticed that yet, but I haven't played every game. So there's some issues here, and I'm not saying that they couldn't be resolved. Maybe they can, I'm not sure. But, for something that is supposedly kind of plug and play, wow, that is a big missed mark there. All right, so it's probably time to talk about my thoughts on this collection. I think it has a lot of great games on here. However, it has a lot of issues. It really does. Between right now, I'm using one button in this game because the other ones are doing weird random stuff, and I don't know why. And that seems to be going across any and all systems, so I'm not sure what the issue is. I probably can fix it, but it is strange that this sort of did that on its own. That's pretty frustrating. Now, this is a good collection of ROMs. It's missing some PS2 stuff, like I said, that I think should be in there, really, really should. But it has a lot of great games, so if you want to buy this just as a collection of ROMs, that's cool. That's not a bad idea, but I would say that this thing on its own, as far as me playing games off it, it's really not going to happen as much as it would with some other collections that I've had. So I'm going to just give this a 5 out of 10, to be honest with you. Its functionality is just not great in my opinion. Now, conceivably, maybe I got some kind of weird, messed up drive. I'm not sure. But regardless, it doesn't seem like that should happen. If I end up going through customer service and getting a different one and it works fine, I'll release an update to this just so I can be fair about it. But as it is, if you're trying to decide between this collection or the previous 12 terabyte drive, which was their Hyperspin one, I would go with Hyperspin one right away. As much as I thought it would be kind of cool to have those, 5 different front ends, it's actually just more inconvenient. It's nice to be able to go through the Hyperspin and just have everything right there at my fingertips. And you don't have that here. It's just not the way it is. You kind of have to jump around. And the Retrobat and Launchbox seem a bit redundant for the most part. So I don't know the necessity in that. I just think it just could be a lot better to use. And I'm a little disappointed with how it has turned out. I think Kinhank can and in fact has done better. So there's no reason to go for this particular one when the previous one is out there. That one had its own problems as well, but nothing nearly as bad as what I've experienced with this one. It's really such a shame that it's like that. But yeah, I can't really recommend this particular drive unless you just want those ROMs. And again, I would just get the other one, the Hyperspin one. It's the same price. So it has some more kind of unusual stuff. So I can't see getting this one over that one. Just if you want to spend that $300, get the original. This one, I'm seriously disappointed to be saying it. It's just not. It's not all it's cracked out to be, and it's just not as good as the first. So anyway, that's my opinion on this new 5-in-1 12 terabyte drive from Kinhank. Let me know in the comments if you've had a different experience with it. Like I said, this is somewhat dependent on the system it's running on. My system should be able to handle all of this fine, but it is possible that it has something to do with that. So let me know. But as it is, I can't experience it. I can't really review it in a way that I didn't get it. So yeah, I would avoid this one. Go for their other collection or go for something different. This just, it's just not what it should be. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe. Click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you again at All Games New and Old. Bye. All right, you made it to the end of another video. If you want to help the channel out, make sure you like it, subscribe, leave a comment if you can. All these things really help, and make sure you tell friends about us because that would also be fantastic.
Yeah. If you enjoyed that video, you might like this one.
Or this one.
We're also on social media. There's a Facebook group. We're on Twitter/X and Instagram.
Yep, so until next time, we'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.